Welcome to the Good News Mama podcast, a place to get in touch with other mamas, share the load, and know the Lord. Here we aim to lift each other up in the good news of Jesus and the laughter that comes with motherhood. We are a community of mamas just trying to keep the main thing the main thing. I'm your host, Lynn Carter, and each time you tune in, I pray you are encouraged and that you leave challenged and breathe a sigh of relief that you are understood. We were not meant to do life alone, Mama. Thanks for joining in. Let's do this and let's share the good news. Hey, Good News Mamas. I'm excited to have Beth Auldridge on the podcast today. For one, she's from Maui. Does it get any cooler than that? I mean, come on. Hawaii girl, aloha. Everything about her just sounds so stress-free. She actually is a beautiful spirit. We talked for over an hour. Okay, you know me, well over an hour. And I just got so much useful advice from her. She really is an amazing person with an amazing mission that I feel like aligns with mine in a lot of ways. I think that she sees the need for mamas having community and knowing that they're not alone. And she really went with that as far as developing a community called Ya Mamas. And she has her own website. She has her own podcast. She homeschools her kids. She has 2 master's degrees. She's married with 3 girls, similar in ages to my kids. Her kids are 6, 4, and 3. And we just talk about everything from A to Z. She kind of shares her story. She talks about what we need to be as friends for other mamas, letting go of comparison, some of the things that we know, but we don't necessarily know how to make the rubber meet the road. She gives some practical advice for that and some real life examples that really opened my eyes to how that can be a major step in freedom and motherhood, basically. There's just so many good things. I know you're going to love it. She just is so easy to talk to. I hope you enjoy this like I did. Thanks, Beth, for coming on. I'm excited that you're here to give this podcast episode a listen. Here she is, Beth Auldridge. Thank you, Beth, for being here on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Girl, me too. Thank you so much. So I'm really excited to talk about the Ya sisterhood. Ya mamas is what I thought of Ya sisterhood, because your mission and my mission are very similar. I feel like we come from kind of the same place of becoming mothers and realizing it's an isolating thing at times, and we need each other. We need community. So I just wanted to ask if you would start by sharing about yourself and just about your story and anything that you think we would benefit from.
Sure. Oh my gosh. Yes. I love it. I love that there are so many of us out here in the world, all these moms who are coming forward and speaking up and saying, we need more sisterhood. We need more connection. We're seeing all this polarization. It's the versus, the breastfeeding moms versus the formula moms. And it's the stay-at-home moms versus the working moms. It's like, no, it's none of that. It's absolutely none of that. And there's polarization in all of our society, and it's become kind of the cultural norm. And I think slowly we're standing up. These humble moms are standing up and saying, no, we're just not going to do that. We're actually going to raise each other up. We're going to have this sisterhood. We're going to form these moms groups. We're going to speak out and say what I feel like most moms are speaking, which is, I want to be understood. I want to be heard. I want to be loved just as I am. We're all on this like self-worth journey, this self-care journey. And of course, that's all intertwined. And we want this connection, but we don't have time, but we do have time. And then we don't know what to do with our time. And so we can't just sit there at home and let all of those thoughts just buzz around in our head by ourselves. We need that connection. So my blog, Ya Mamas, this whole journey started off as a blog. I felt like I should blog. I should write because I have 2 master's degrees, one in children's literature and one in creative writing. And so I thought, oh, I'm supposed to write. Well, then, fast forward 2 years later, that turned into a podcast. And it turns out I like talking much more.
Yes, girl. Amen. I thought about a blog for half a second. I'm like, that won't work.
Yeah, podcasting is where it's at because it's more of a conversation and it's more of that vibe of a mom's group. So I actually live on Maui. I have 3 young girls. I had them back to back. My hip still hurts sometimes from that journey.
Tell me their age.
Um,
How old are
oh,
they?
they are 6, 4.5, and 3 next week.
Wow.
So they're very close in age. And I actually was thinking today, by the end of this year, after everyone has all their birthdays, I will have a 7, 5, and 3-year-old. That's like a whole other chapter. That's a whole other space. So I'm going to need my friends, my girlfriends, my yayas, my sisters to walk me through that, because that's going to be new to me. I
Wow.
love the baby phase, so I don't know what to do. I do. I know I'll know, but at the same time, I need to have that conversation.
That's so
So
exciting.
I am I'm excited. Every chapter has been good, just different. And it's been easier because of my friends. So I live on the island of Maui, and I live in a fairly remote part of Maui. And so I feel like I live in the middle of nowhere in the middle of nowhere. So I had a full-time job. My husband and I were running our renovation business on top of that. Everything's great. We planned this pregnancy. We have it. We're all la-ti-da. This is wonderful. And then you have the baby and you're sleep deprived, and all of these things are going through your head, all of this not knowing. And you're at your home staring bleary-eyed at your husband going, I love you and all, but it's just not you that I need right now. I need someone to talk about this with.
Yeah.
So one night while I was out to dinner with my boss, my former boss, I saw another mom, like in this small little town we live in, at the one restaurant, right? And I see this mom whose baby looks about the same age as my 3-month-old. And I accosted her, just came at her. How old's your baby? Where do you live? Blah, 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 blah. Do you have a mom's group? Do you have any mom friends? Do you want to hang out? And so she was entertaining guests who were here on the island. And my boss is laughing at me because she has older kids and probably doesn't remember. Well, we have a laughing kind of relationship. And I was like, no, I really need mom friends with children the same age. And I'm staring at her during dinner like, I just need to get her my number or get her number before we leave. So the entire dinner, I'm like watching this mom, wanting to talk to her more than anything. And I asked my former boss for us, do you have a piece of paper? Do you have anything, like anything in your purse I can write down my number on? She's getting ready to leave. She pulled a used sticky note out of her purse and handed it to me. And I scratched my number down and was like, here, please call me. And just handed it to, bless her heart, to this mom,
Yeah.
Holly. And I didn't hear from her for a bit, but she called.
Yeah.
And my whole motherhood journey changed in that moment when we got together. Yeah.
That is
So
awesome.
that's how my mom's groups kind of started, was a used sticky note in a restaurant in a moment of desperation and knowing I needed this connection. But I had no idea through my whole pregnancy, and even when my daughter was newborn, that I would need that level of connection and community. And from that sticky note, I ended up forming a mom's group. And even on this tiny island, I had to very quickly cap it at 50 moms.
Oh my gosh.
Because once I put it out there, they just came in droves. Like there were so many I get chills just thinking about it. There were so many me's alone at home with our babies, feeling like we were just doing this all alone, having so many questions, needing to have the conversation, and that sisterhood, someone who can understand the messiness and the physical stuff and the hormone stuff. And bless our husbands' hearts, our partners' hearts. Sometimes they're just not that. So
no, they're
that's
great,
how.
but they're not
Thanks.
that. They're not this
Yeah.
right here. They're not talking
Yeah.
like they humor
Yeah.
us, but it's not the same. So
Yeah.
that you're exactly right, because I know exactly what you're talking about. What I wanted to find out along those lines of starting that motherhood group, what does that look like for you now? Like it's evolved because it's been several years, right? Because your
Yeah.
firstborn is 6 now. What does that look like with those moms? Is it the same group? Did you get coming and going and weekly meetings, monthly meetings? How did you decide to do what you decided to do with that group?
Yeah. So I decided that if I was going to have a mom's group and my husband and I were still going to have our renovation business, and my job turned from full-time to part-time. So, and it was a very interesting job. I was a personal assistant to an international rock star, and it was
What?
very interesting. And I wanted to keep that job, and it was super fascinating. I felt like Superwoman. I can do it all. I can do it all. It's fine. We can renovate homes here, and I can have this baby, and I can work over here. It's fine. I've got this. So I was in charge of my schedule, and I knew I wanted to stay with my baby no matter what. And I was allowed to work from home. I was allowed to have my baby with me when I had to like go into work, and they were very loving and supportive. It was a very unique situation. But because of that, and because I knew that I was basically on call for everybody, literally 24 hours a day, including my husband and baby, I had to schedule it. So I was like, if I'm going to have a mom's group, I'm going to have to run it. And so I said, okay, Monday morning, everyone thinks Monday mornings are a drag, and I don't. So I'm going to make it at 10 a.m. on Monday morning because that's what works for me. So that way I can block off all of Monday morning. We can have our weekend together. I can have all of Monday morning to transition into the week because it was a lot. So I could sleep in. 10 a.m. seemed doable. And then I could be done by noon. And then everyone kind of understood that the rest of the week I was available Monday afternoon through Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
And it worked out great. So I blocked off that time, became the most sacred time of the week, like 10 to noon on Mondays. And 6.5 years later, we still meet at 10 a.m. every Monday.
How about that?
Mm-hmm.
That is
I had my, it's fun. Those kids are now, obviously, some of them are homeschooled, some of them are in public school, some of them are in private school, but those mom friendships, we still get together for mom's night outs. So even if they can't come to the Monday group, or if it's like spring break or something, then they can show up. That we have birthday parties, things like that. So we're still connected. It's more distant. And then there was that separation when they turned school age that was a little bit hard on the heart when you realized, oh my gosh, this is where we kind of split up and are going in different ways. But I'm happy to report that mom's nights in and mom's nights out are still going strong regardless.
That's so good that you have the friendship in the community even after the season, right? Because you
Mm-hmm.
grow the friendship mostly, I would think, in the season because you connect so well and you share that commonality. And then because you develop those relationships and realize how much you need each other in general, when the kids get older, they're still there. You can still have
Mm-hmm.
that community and not feel alone. That is awesome.
Mm-hmm. In fact, there's 2 meal trains this week that I know of, that are happening, that are still, so we still show up for each other in that way too.
Yeah,
Someone's sick or someone gets hurt or someone has anything at all. You can basically request a meal train for anything and we'll just show up at your door.
that is so awesome. That
Mm-hmm.
that needs to be just commonplace in every community.
It does.
Like whenever you move and you establish yourself in a new place, like find the group and get plugged in. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think that when you're in that type of season, like you mentioned in the beginning, how, as moms, it seems to be, I don't want to say like we're pitted against each other sometimes, but that polarization, like the breastfed versus bottle fed and things like that. When you're in a group like that, can you describe what kind of friend you need to be in that group? Because I know that there's always an underlying judgment, there's always underlying opinions. Like, give me an example for me and the mamas listening. How can you be a great friend in that scenario? Judgment free zone, drama free, that sort of thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you've actually seen some moms in that situation that you had to be like, hey, you need to dial it back a little, something. Can you give an example or, just anything like that that comes to mind that's been
Sure.
fun to work
Sure.
around?
Yeah, I can give specifics for sure. Oh my gosh, the wheels are spinning because this is a tricky one, and that was part of the reason I started the blog too, is because I wanted, like you said, this should be the norm for all the moms. That this is just the expected, the connection, all of that is there, and then if we put it out there, that we'll kind of get that back. I will say that I think honesty and creating a space for people to be themselves, and bringing understanding to the table. So to kind of tie in all the examples, once upon a time, one of the moms came to mom's group for the first time, and she was very outspoken about a political thing. And we are like, oh, we are just pushing our babies in swings, looking at the ocean, living our blissful life. Like this is just,
In
we're just,
Maui. Okay.
yeah.
Like, can you get any more blissful than that? Like,
It's pretty ridiculous.
I'm
I'm not
green.
going to lie.
Okay. I'm so green right now. But go ahead. You're good. I love that.
So we're pushing our babies and everything's great. And she comes and she's like really kind of harsh and brash and like kind of,
Yeah.
we're not understanding the vibe. But there are many of us who could have been like, OMG, who is this girl? She's squishing our zen we got going on. I mean, not that it's always peaceful, but I was like, there's got to be something else going on. Like what kind of morning did she have? Like, has she ever been to a mom's group? Does she feel pressure to perform? Does she feel pressure to be herself instead of just like opening the door and like being yourself? It's almost like a pressure to be yourself. Like, hey, this is who I am, accept me or not sort of energy. And so I was like, I'm just going to ask some questions. So instead of coming out the gate, it's kind of, and just saying, wow, that was a little harsh, or wow, is that how you feel about it? Or, oh, let's change the subject, is get curious about that person. How was your morning? What's your morning like? Are you sleeping? And then once you start asking those questions and bringing that compassion to the table. So if you stop looking at people as if they're Democrats or Republicans, breastfeeders or bottle feeders, baby wearers or whatever, authoritarian parenting versus this other kind. If you stop looking at that and just look at the mom and start getting curious about her and her motherhood journey and who she is as a woman, you will find that most of the time there's some underlying thing in there. And we're all seeking the same thing, to be understood, to be accepted, to be ourselves, all of that. So that's kind of the energy we bring to the moms group. And because we bring that, the drama falls to the wayside almost by itself. So there have been a couple of moms who have come into the moms group because they hear it's going to be great. They hear it's going to be awesome. And then they start drama and they're stirring the pot and they're stirring the pot and they're stirring the pot and everything is like frantic and that's just their personality. And when they realize that we don't want that kind of drama, they're like, fine, I'm going to leave. I can't be myself. I'm not accepted. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, it's a give and take, right? Mm-hmm. So there's that mentality too. So it's the moms who come in and we have to give and take. We just can't. Most of the time, if people fall to the wayside, it's because they just want to receive instead of give. And what they want is fuel for their drama. So those people just naturally fall to the side.
That is such an awesome answer. And I love it because I see the parallel in that answer with adults like I do children, right? Because when children act out and when children, like every single day, every single day that I pick up my children from daycare, right? Because I work part-time and part-time out of the home. I'm a physical therapist. So I work 3 days a week right now, which I've been blessed to be able to go down to part-time. But every time that I go pick up my children, my 5-year-old like immediately comes up to me and starts swinging at me, hitting me, like just, and it's just a love and attention that he's after. But I'm like, whoa, cool your jets, dude. Like, don't beat me up. And like, but when you look at the kid and like a kid's having a meltdown or something's going on, there's always some other underlying thing that is going on in their world that they cannot articulate, right? And so they need that safe place to be able to do that. And just, it's so funny. Sometimes my husband will be frustrated in parenting and I'll be like from the side, like, give him a hug. Like, give him a hug. Like,
yes, I know
like,
exactly
I know
what
you're mad,
you mean.
but just like, give him a hug and then talk to him because he'll calm. Like you can see the emotion just start to fall away and like they're with you again. They see the connection. And so when you say that about an adult, it's like a V8 moment. It's like, oh yeah, duh, that makes sense. We're people too, right? They're people.
Right.
And that was just so good because I hadn't thought of it that way. I would have been the one that had been like, okay, that's how you feel about it, and not realizing that she probably needs to talk about something that she can't really bring up or doesn't know how to bring up.
It was actually like an article she'd read. And it was the first non-parenting, non-mothering, she was in that sort of overwhelmed thing. So she wanted to talk about something adult outside of parenting. And it was like, oh, you just read that. Okay, that's where that's coming from. Right. Yes. Okay, well, we could probably talk about that.
Yes.
But
it was almost like she was embodying that article because she was so excited to not have to talk about something kid related. And it came off as who she was versus this is an escape from what I normally face. Right.
Right. Like just so desperate. It was that desperate energy that sometimes moms bring to it. And you're going to have that sometimes too. And just knowing that there are going to be moms at the park who are like, hi, and they're just so desperate to connect. And instead of seeing that as part of their personality, just know that, that's where they are on their journey. And most of us have been there.
Yes, for sure. Gosh, for
The
sure.
not comparing thing is the other point I was thinking about, just not comparing yourself to other moms, and also just not inviting that energy into your group too, because that's not why we're there. And just having that common goal, which is let's just get together, hang out, talk about things as they come up, be curious about each other, just talk. And
Mm-hmm.
when we share stories, just knowing, and sometimes it takes even saying out loud, I'm not saying this to show off, I'm just saying this as an example, or I'm not saying that this is the solution for your child, but this is what worked for me.
Right.
So just, it's a mindset, like I think just in motherhood in general, but when you're having those connections, having that mindset and clearing the path for other people to be themselves, not comparing, not seeing differences as bad things, and just getting to the core of that person and that woman and that mom
Mm-hmm.
is what I try to focus on, because when I do that, then that's when I can see the person. And then curiosity can sometimes feel kind of forced at first, like when you're getting to know each other and you're trying to watch your
Mm-hmm.
kid, but you're trying to ask questions, but you're running away, and you get like that mom Tourette's where you're like, hang on just 1 second. Johnny, yes, I'm listening. No, you and this. And,
Exactly.
but just then after a while, the curiosity is intentional and kind of feels kind of forced at first. And after a while, you just really truly do want to get to know that person better.
Yes. That's so good that you said that. It makes me think, like when you were talking about being diverted between kids and being in a conversation that you need to have, that you want to have, that you come there almost for group therapy, right? You guys, I feel like
Yeah.
everybody has this innate need to be heard and understood. And when we shut ourselves off and we don't have that community, it's almost like we just start to shrivel up, like we just shelter that gift and we don't really thrive. We're just there, kind of thing. And what does that say about our homes and showing up for our kids and our families, right? And wanting to be our best for them means we have to take care of ourselves and have that time, that mommy time with with other mommies for sure. Um, is that what you meant when you talked about getting away from mainstream motherhood and your website, and the things that you like to emphasize is the not comparison, the not, polarizing motherhood and things like that? Does that encompass kind of that whole, take a step back and don't get caught up in what the social media feeds you and things like that?
For sure. I actually wholeheartedly consider myself an opt-outer.
Yeah.
And so we opt out of mainstream life in lots of obvious ways, like we run our own businesses, we're entrepreneurs, we set our own schedule, we
Mm-hmm.
don't work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, we homeschool our kids, but then it's like, even it goes even deeper than that. Like my husband and I don't sleep in the same bed, and people are
Yeah.
outraged by this. They're like, "Oh my
Huh.
God, there must be a problem." No, actually, I'm a night owl. I'm a morning person, and we
We love
value
each other
sleep.
better.
Yeah, and we're fine. Don't worry about us. But we don't drink anymore.
Mhm.
And boy, I'll tell you, to be a not wine joke mom, in the
Mhm.
age of this, it
Yeah.
feels like opting out big time, because everything's like, let's get together for a glass of wine. I'm like, I'll bring the sparkling water.
Right.
You know, we don't sit down at the table at 5 o'clock every night to eat together as a family, devices gone, all of that stuff. We don't do that because it's about quality time. So what we're trying,
Yeah.
what I feel like this message we're being fed in the mainstream sort of stuff is that unless you are sitting down at the table at 5 o'clock every night as a family with a
Mhm.
home cooked meal, you're doing it wrong. Well, it's just not true. It's not
Yeah.
true. So our connection time is outside of the dinner time. And honestly, we've had so much connection time and options for opportunity and quality time that sometimes dinner rolls around, and that is us with our takeout in front of the TV watching a documentary. And if you're a homeschool family, it's also quality time.
There you go. Two birds with one stone.
Exactly. So we do all of that, but then I feel like I opt out of these messages, like the wine jokes. I opt out of the messages of it has to be one or the other. Are you a crunchy mom? Are you whatever the other kind of moms are? It's like, no,
Mhm.
actually, we're not that, and we're not striving for that. And that's where that comparison piece comes in too, like in our moms group and elsewhere. Instead of comparing, I have started to read things because I'm out there on mainstream social media too, and I'm with my mom friends who are also influenced by that and affected by it like we all are. But instead of seeing what they're saying is truth and like the absolute truth, or feeling the need to comment and be like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that you would even say that. And that is so rude. And I feel differently than you. Instead, my goal, what's the goal of looking at all of this? It's to figure out what works for you and your family, right? So if you take that comparison piece out and just have the opt-out mindset of, you know what, I'm going to figure out what's best for my family, and I'm going to start seeing people's stories and seeing people's comments and their opinions as possible options, then all of a sudden your whole world shifts. Because when you're in mom's group and someone's like, what do you guys do for fevers? And one mom uses Tylenol, and one mom uses Advil, and one mom doesn't touch Tylenol, and one mom uses cold washcloths, and one mom's great grandma has this great secret from Germany that's been passed down for generations. We're not sitting there going like, I cannot believe these moms, and that there is no one size fits all answer. So that's what it comes down to for us too, is that we don't believe in a one size fits all answer. And if I feel like that's what society is kind of telling us, that that you should do things one way, you should be doing this, you should be sitting down to that dinner. But that would mean there's like a cookie cutter mom mold out there, and there isn't one. And so, yes. And so I'm not looking for the cookie cutter answer. I'm not looking for the most, the answer with the most votes. I'm looking for what may or may not work for my family. Yeah. And that is so, 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 so freeing.
Yes, definitely. I liked what you said about looking at the options and deciding what you want to opt in on, basically. Like, it doesn't have to be a certain way. Even if you've done it the same way for your own family and you're exposed to something different that may work better, go for it. It takes away the pressure. It takes away the guilt. It lets you have the freedom to try new things without feeling judgment. And I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm a person that has to be given permission to do certain things, like permission to feel a certain way or react a certain, just things that I don't even know that I've conditioned myself to feel that way, but I do instinctively. And so when you say that you don't have to do it that way, it's kind of like, wait, what? What do you mean? I've always done it this way, or this is the way that so-and-so's always told me to do it. It's like almost the rule follower type of thing. And this is like your family. You decide, you make that judgment call. And if it doesn't work, then you shift and you try something different, and it's okay if it doesn't work. So it just seems a lot less constricting and a lot less damning, almost, just like you're going to be an awful person if you don't do it this way, if you don't do it the way it's always been done. So tell me a little bit, there's another thing I wanted to talk about with, kind of goes along that with the mindset and giving yourself permission and things like that. Talk about the power in mindset and motherhood. Did you have any specific, you mentioned having 2 degrees, 2 masters, right? Did I catch that right? Okay.
Yeah.
You and your experience with your education and with your experience and life experience, have you learned some tricks that have helped you shift your mindset and realize the power that there is in your mindset behind motherhood?
For sure. I'll tell you that with all my degrees, none of them prepared me for motherhood. Except I do know how to read a really good children's story.
Yes.
And I have a preference on books, and that's about as far as it goes.
Which is hilarious because I didn't know that. Okay, I saw your website and I saw all the letters behind your name, and I thought, oh my gosh, she is so smart. I wonder what book she likes to read with her kids. I didn't even know anything was like masters in children's literature. That was amazing, because I was going to ask you what are some of your favorite books that you like for your kids.
Oh my gosh, it would be, the list is so long. The list is actually so long that I put it on the blog, because I get asked all the time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to put them all in one place, because our library is just so huge. And now my heart's like exploding, which I love children's literature. I'm like, oh my gosh, yay, all the books. Mindset kind of started to come into play for me as a coping mechanism with my second pregnancy. It was a very physically painful pregnancy for me.
Oh.
My second was my biggest baby. I carried to 41 and a half weeks. She flipped breech at 38. We were able to flip her back head down for the birth with
Yay.
acupuncture. And then after it was, she was also sunny side up, and she was just all these things. So it was like physically hard for me. I felt like I just blew up like a balloon. I was so tight and small with my first pregnancy. And next thing you know, I just felt like a monster walking into the room. It was so ungraceful. But I will say in hindsight, for anyone listening who might be pregnant and feeling the same, I look back on those maternity photos and they are probably the most gorgeous I've ever looked. But I could not see that in the moment because I did not feel that on any level.
Right.
So when I was pregnant with my second, and I had the toddler, right, because they're close in age, so she was still under 2. My fingers swelled up so much I couldn't wear my wedding ring or my engagement ring, and I just took them off and didn't think anything of it.
Mhm.
And then I started getting looks and
Oh.
conversations from people, and I thought, no, this isn't a thing. Like, surely people are just, I'm making this up in my mind, because
Oh.
I'm really pregnant. Like, this can't be a thing. And
Yeah.
then people started having conversations. They're like, oh, you're not married. And I was like, I'm sorry, excuse me, stranger in the checkout at Target. Like, what? So I
Wow.
was like, you know what? For me, I want a placeholder on my finger. And so I ordered a ring, this very large ring for that finger that I knew I could probably wear on my ring finger or my middle finger on the other hand after the pregnancy. And I was like, I need some sort of phrase that I can look at and remember that this is temporary. This is worth it. This is what we want, in those hard moments. So I decided to put the phrase "where we are" have it stamped into a ring. And I wore that on my wedding finger, if you will, for the rest of my pregnancy. And that was my husband and I's mantra for that season, very short. It felt like forever, but it was a very short
Yeah.
season of our life. And it was just like, okay, this is just where we are. It's just where we are. It's busy. It's hard. It's fulfilling. It's hard. It's just
Yeah.
where we are. It won't always be this way. One day we'll get more sleep. One day, we'll be holding that baby and it's going to be good. And so that mantra of where we are reminds me in a good way that this won't last forever. The good, the bad, the joy, all of that. And so it just reminds us to be present in the moment. And so for me, that one mantra, where we are, became my mindset shift as a mom. And then suddenly that pregnancy was doable. The newborn stage of that was doable. But again, it goes back to the moms group too. It's all interconnected. Having that sisterhood for that support to get me through the season, my shifted, more positive mindset to get me through that season. And now my newest mantra, if you will, is actually my favorite people. So I just keep reminding myself of that because I have 3 small children whose listening skills are questionable on a good day.
Oh, you're speaking my
and
language.
and it's I know better, right? I've studied the parenting things and I've done all this, and I'm like, you have to be the grown up in this situation. And sometimes I still yell. And one of my kids took off last night, for example. We were going down a flight of stairs. She took off. I couldn't see her. The last time her not listening sister did that, she ran into the parking lot. And so I got scared and I said, you get your butt back here. Well, I didn't say it. I yelled it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, is that how I talk to my favorite people?
Yeah.
But then I also was able to go to her and say, you know what? I'm sorry I yelled that. That was rude. I own my thing.
Yeah.
And just let her know, you're one of my favorite people. And it made me nervous when I couldn't see you anymore because I was afraid that you go into the parking lot, and it scared me. And that's why I yelled. So I try to explain that to my kids and also my husband.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Very
and
similar.
and just apologize and let them know why I'm yelling. And
Yes.
it helps me immediately get to the bottom of why I'm yelling anyway. Do I need time to myself? Am I burnout?
Yeah.
Am I needing quiet? And my 3 kids, my whirlwind, my, what did my auntie call them this morning? My constellation that just circles around the mother planet.
There you go.
Constantly. Like if I need quiet, I need to ask for it. These are my
Mhm.
favorite people. It's not like they're going to
Yeah.
deny me on purpose. Like I'm one of their favorite people too. And so if I can just remember that and keep that at the forefront of my mindset, these are my favorite people. I should treat them that way. It's been very helpful. It's kind of new, but it's
Yeah.
been working for
I'm
sure.
gonna borrow that for sure because
Yeah, you should.
I feel the same way and the yelling and what you just said there, like owning how you're feeling and telling them about it and acknowledging it reminds me of I don't even know what strategy it is, but name it to tame it is what came to my mind. Like
Oh,
identifying what's going on so that you can reel it back in and seeing that in your children, but also like you just did, seeing that in yourself. And it's funny how like I'm the same way. I want to read. My husband sometimes he'll get mad at me because he's like, "Did you read that in one of your books?" So like whenever I'm saying, let's try it this way or let's do this. And I'm like, you know what? I'm trying, right? I don't have the answers. That's why I'm reading. That's
yeah,
why I'm listening to podcasts because I want to love these people and not bite their heads off. But they do drive me crazy. Like, even though they
right.
are my favorite people, they do drive me crazy.
Hmm.
And it's just one of those things where I want to keep their emotions intact and their feelings intact and not shame them. But oh my gosh, if I said to them what I really think, like I've got to figure out a different way, just like you did.
Hmm.
Like you saw that and did that. Is there any in all your wisdom and experience, do you have any specific go-to advice that you think of off the bat when you're disciplining your kids or trying to connect to them in a way that gets the behavior that you're after? What advice could you give moms that are really struggling and just, I need a trick, I need something, I need to try something that'll work? What would you say to try?
For sure. Self empowerment is what I would immediately, it's just what immediately comes to mind. As soon as you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? And I was like,
Yeah,
no, I know exactly what I'm going to say. It's that you are powerful and you have resources at your fingertips. You have Mom's Group. Show up to Mom's Group. If you look at all 7 of those friends and say, hey, I'm having this issue, what would you do? What has worked for you? And then again, it's not comparison, right?
right.
You get 7 different ideas. So that's
Yeah,
one resource. So empower yourself through your friendships, use them. And then someone else is going to come to that mom's group and ask a question. And then you're one of those 7 answers, right? It's
yes.
just, you have that resource. There are books, there's podcasts, there's online things.
Mm,
Monica Swanson was on my podcast, and she actually, in her book, Boy Mom, in the very first part of it, I appreciated her honesty. And she said she had a yelling problem. And you know what she did? She looked it up, what to do about yelling. Because the truth of the matter is that we are not born necessarily knowing how to be moms. We are not born knowing how to parent in this modern world. And
right.
it's almost like everyone expects us to, like you said with your husband, did you read it in a book? No, but maybe I should go find another book, that tells me how to deal with this problem.
Right.
Just
Exactly.
but these books and podcasts and articles and websites and other moms, and you have all of these resources around you, and there is no shame in tapping into them. In fact, the second you step into your truth, which is, sometimes I don't know how to deal with this, I don't know how to yell less, I don't know how to let go of how I was parented, or I don't know how to move forward with this kind, or I've tried positive parenting and it's failing. There are articles for that.
Mhm.
There are podcasts for that. There are friends who have gone through the exact same thing, and they're like, okay, let's pool our resources, you
Yeah,
know? So if you start to need help in your motherhood journey, and this notion comes into your head, into your heart, just empower yourself by using the resources around you, and just let shame go to the side, because we are all the same.
yeah.
None of us know exactly how to do it or what we're doing. And we are all seeking out these same resources. We're just not stepping up and saying, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, but I read this book. But more of us are. You, me, other moms were standing up and saying, I don't know what to do about the terrible twos, but I know that I don't want to call them terrible. And I know that I don't want my childhood's, or my child's journey and their childhood to look like a mom who's tired, depleted, and yelling all the time.
Exactly. Exactly. Did you have any specific resources that you like or that you found empowering for you when your kids were in that gonna lose your
Mhm.
mind, toddler running around phase?
Yeah, janetlansbury.com. Literally
She
every
knows
single
it off the top
person.
of her head. Okay, Janet, I'm writing this down.
Yeah.
JanetLansbury.com.
.com. Yeah. Any mom's group online, everyone's like, my toddler, my 3-year-old, what about this? Hitting, sibling rivalry, new baby, all this stuff. I literally don't type in anything else in the comment section. I'm like, JanetLansbury.com. Just go there. She's got a podcast. She's got a book, No Bad Kids, Toddler Discipline Without Shame. She was an excellent resource for me. But
Mm-hmm.
she wasn't my only resource, right? I think that's the other part of it too, is that you don't have to marry yourself to just one way of parenting, one style of parenting. You don't have to identify yourself as a certain type of parent. You could be a real parent, which is, I'm going to look up respectful parenting. I'm going to look up, simplicity parenting by Kim John Payne is excellent. Love and Logic speaks to a lot of people. Any sort of positive parenting, respectful parenting, simplicity parenting. There's there's the RIE method, which is a little strict for my liking, but they have some good points that I have honestly pulled out. So I
Yes.
think it's okay to piecemeal it together too.
Yes,
And I
girl,
think
all
it's
those are
all,
good.
yeah, I think it's good to piecemeal it together for every individual child too.
There you've hit the nail on the head, okay? Because you said Love and Logic, and immediately my light bulb went off there because I read that book, Love and
Oh,
Logic, and I was actually talking about it with one of my friends over the weekend. We had over her kids and my kids had pizza together, and we were talking, and it was one of those times where, the dads are talking, the moms are talking, and we're bringing up different strategies that we might need help with or working on. And I was talking to her about empathy and how I had no idea how empathy could change myself and my children at the same time. Just empathy. And how sometimes it does feel a little contrived and a little fake, right? Like if they've just
yeah,
stubbed their
sure.
toe and they're completely fine and like, "Whoa,"
Yeah,
losing it.
yeah,
But instead of being like, "Oh, you're fine, you're all right, shake it off," you go, "Oh my gosh, man, I saw that. That hurt, didn't it?"
yeah,
Yep. And then they're gone. They're happy. You acknowledged it. You
yeah.
empathized with them and it just nipped it in the bud. I was like, whoa, what just happened? Like before I'd spend 15 minutes just trying to convince them that they're okay.
Mhm.
They didn't want convincing. They wanted you to say, I see you. It's okay. You're great. Like give them that satisfaction of knowing that you understand. That to me was just very aha moment. And if that's the only thing I took away out of that book, because clearly I forgot the name of it, but that until you said it, I didn't even know what that was. And then I
That's
was like,
awesome.
that was it. But just the thought behind being able to execute, we never really did much of the 1, 2, 3 with the counting. We did much more of like, I'm gonna tell you this and I expect you to do this. And then if you're not doing it, I'm going to get up and take you by the hand to where I just told you to go or what to do and just follow through with it. And it isn't perfect, but it keeps me calm because I can almost be like, I'll tell you, I want you to do this. And if you don't, this is going to happen. And then when that consequence happens, then I go, oh man, I'm sorry you made that choice.
Mhm.
That's not what we just talked about, and then it becomes very low key on me. My blood pressure's not going up. I can feel like I'm in control in a way that's respectful and I'm not shaming my kid, but it's just a very matter of fact. This isn't me against you. This is just what we said as far as action and reaction type of thing. So anyway, those are the big things that I think of too. When you're naming off all these great resources, girl, I'm gonna look up all those things because
Oh,
I feel
they're amazing. I have just pulled them all into my head, into my heart. And it's so funny when you said that, like, I saw that hurt. That literally is a phrase that comes out of my mouth all the time. Like, wow, I
Mhm.
saw that and that hurt. And
Yeah,
you're right. That's all they need to move on. With the, I also need, okay, I'm thinking of all my children at the same time.
yeah.
Classic mom mind moment. My oldest is very logical. And so if I say, please put the books away, she needs to know why, because that's just how her mind works. It's not contrary, it's not anything like that. She's like, well, why in this moment? Why not minutes from now? Or
Mhm.
what if I didn't get them out or whatever? And so I'll say, well, company's coming over and it's grandma, and we need to make sure that the path is clear so that she can walk so she doesn't trip and fall. So that's why I'm asking you to pick up those books, because the books are in the path.
Yeah.
Immediately she picks them up, she understands, she's happy to help, her little heart is like, absolutely, I'll help grandma. And it's like bigger for her. Well, her other two sisters don't necessarily need that. And the youngest, bless her, is going to be 3 next week. And for her, it's please pick up those books. Deadpan silence, right? Just crickets, nothing, no moving. Could
Is she
you
even
please pick
looking
up
at
those
you at
books?
this point?
No. After the second ask, then she'll give me the side eye, like, I hear you, but seriously, I don't even, why are you even asking me? Do you really think I'm going to pick those up? And so then if I give her a choice, I have to give the power back to her.
Yes.
Did you want to pick those up yourself, or do you want me to help you with those?
Yes, girl. Yes.
But if I did that with my first one, she'd be like, I don't need your help.
No, but you're exactly right, because that was in that same conversation in that pizza night the other night. I was talking about how I learned, I don't know which book it was, God bless, I've tried so many of them, but giving them the power of choice, but making either choice something that you need done, right? You need the books up. Either you're going to do it or I'm going to help you do it. Which would you like? For my children, and for especially my second child, it was potty training. It was, okay, it's time to go potty. I don't want to go potty. I take him to the potty. Okay, do you want to pull your pants down, or do you want me to pull you? I want to pull him down. And then he'll go ahead through the motion without, belaboring the whole issue. But it's like, if I sit there and try to convince you that you need to go potty, we're both just going to be talking till we're blue in the face or having a meltdown. And it just kind of helps him move on to the next thing. Well, this is what happens next. Do you want to grab the tissue paper, or do you want me to grab it? Like, let's get through this together. And yes, giving them the choice. It's such the little things. Oh my gosh. You would think that this should just be downloaded. Like, could we just get a hard drive that we just get plugged in when we become a parent? You take these things home from the hospital. Like, wait a second, they're letting me take this kid home. Okay, this is my, and then you don't know what to do with it and how to raise it. And anyway, so good.
Well, I love that quote about it's been circulating around for the last year or so. I think it's Annie Dillard. It's like, how we spend our days is how we live our lives. Yeah. And that just feels so true. But instead of seeing it as just a meme that came across my social media feed, I took it, and that was a download for me. That was, yes, how we spend our days is how we spend our lives. Mm-hmm. And if I need any reason to go to mom's group, or to go to the beach with the girls, or to enjoy the island that we live on, or do our chores, or any of that, it's that reminder that how we spend our days is how we spend our lives. And I don't want to spend them yelling. I don't want to spend them being angry with my kid. I don't want to spend them sleep deprived. So we are going to prioritize sleep, if that's what we need in the moment. Right now, we're prioritizing a health journey that we're on. And that's just our focus for the next 8 weeks. Well, 6 weeks now. Woo, partway through. And then at the end of that, it's going to be something else. And it might be, the orchard needs tending more. So, okay, we're going to prioritize that now. And it's just kind of like one thing at a time, and not beating. I also don't want to spend my entire life beating myself up.
No time.
So,
right.
There's that too.
That is so true. Thinking about priorities and how we live our lives, instead of, just kind of realizing that, like you just said, there's a time for everything. Don't get so caught up on, well, I can't get all the things done at all the time. Well, what do you need at this season? And being able to look at that honestly, and then table the other things that aren't glaring you in the face. For me, I've been postponing starting sports with the kids because I don't want the schedule. I don't want all that right now. And
I don't want the schedule for you either.
Yeah. I know it's coming, and I know it's inevitable, but and it is T-ball's coming up for our oldest, and I think he may want to play there, but if he didn't, it wouldn't hurt my heart. I'm an athlete, and I do want him to enjoy sports, but I just like kind of being and not feeling like I have to run from one thing to the next. And I feel like I have given myself permission in that regard to say I don't have to commit to all the things and all the lessons, and kind of spend it halfway sane, I guess. But
struggle to stay sane.
Oh my gosh, every day. There's one more thing I definitely wanted to hit on. It was the guided journals that you do. I saw that on your website. I love that. I'm a sucker for a good journal. I can't go into a store, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, Walmart, anywhere. Gotta check out the stationery section. Gotta look for what journals what. Gotta check out the outside of it. Is that a durable cover? Is that a cute cover? How's the page feel? Let's look at the pens. I mean, it's sad. Okay. I have too many journals, too many pens, and I get in my mind what I'm going to do with each one of them. It's like an addiction. It is.
I mean, it's like we're sisters. You and I should not go into Paper Garden together, or those beautifully curated paper boutiques that just, oh, I could spend all day in there. I could work at one of those. I could have one of those. It's just, oh, yes. I
Yeah.
have a whole collection of journals, and I still buy more.
Yes. Not even done with the ones you already bought.
No, and there's empty ones, but you can't pass them up. That you might not find that one again.
Well, then the funny thing is that I'll stack a lot of these notebooks into a bag like this, and I'll carry it around with me thinking I have the time to look at what's in it and to write things on it when I don't. I really don't. I have ideas and I have thoughts and I want to think that I'll get to those, but I don't. But it's still a dream and it's still there.
Same, same. I hear you so deep on that one.
So when I came across your website with these guided journal entries, I loved it because I noticed myself when I actually had time and I was single in college and wrote down prayers and wrote out anything I felt like God was saying to me. The things that would come out of my pen were
Yeah.
far different than the things that would come in just a verbal prayer. And it amazed me. I'd write and I would stop and I'd look at it and read it and go, wow, God, I didn't know that you were telling me that. It's so weird to say, but I've seen it so many times when I've done it. And it saddens me to think how long it's been since I took the time to write out prayers like that. And I do write out important things and goals and stuff like that. But anyway, getting to your guided journals, I thought that was very empowering because it can direct our thoughts toward our homes and toward our goals and toward our lives and just how we want to be. And you have a prompt for every month and you have
a topic for every month. Yeah. And a prompt for every day. Yeah.
Yes. Tell me
To
about
make it doable for moms. Yeah. That was the other part of all this too, is that homeschool has taught me that, believe it or not, because so many people are like, I just don't think I could do it, or this seems too easy, and I was like, actually, it's supposed to be doable. And because it is doable.
Yes.
And I was thinking about that in terms of motherhood too, that everyone's like, oh, it's so hard, or this seems too easy, or I was like, well, it's supposed to be doable. It's supposed to be doable. So if you run across something and it feels too easy to be true or too good to be true, it's supposed to be doable.
Yeah.
And so I actually did the guided journals for myself. And I thought, I'm going to work on myself for an entire year at the very least. And I'm going to write down all of these topics that I want to do. So the very first month was alone time, which now kind of translates into me time, but I wasn't getting any. And it started off with just a prompt a day, like a question a day, so that I could get to know myself better. I could learn to identify my needs slowly over time. And by the end of the month, I wanted to have scheduled in me time, or felt like I could break through this notion that I couldn't take it. So it started off with me sitting down and saying, okay, I'm going to have a coffee after lunch, no matter what. So that was my goal from those journal prompts that came to me. And it took me an entire month of fighting myself to have a coffee after lunch every day, no matter what. And it just seems so silly to say out loud now, but it's true. We would be out and about doing errands or something like that. And, it's like not going to the bathroom when you have to go to the bathroom because we can't stop. This isn't the most efficient thing. Moms can hold it. We can do this. We need to power through. I'm hungry.
We are
Oh,
sisters.
no, I can't stop.
Sisters.
It's like, I can't stop to get that English muffin at the counter right there. I can't stop and pick up my favorite sandwich. I can't stop and get that coffee. And so I was like, this is getting a little ridiculous. Like, what am I doing with my day if I'm just like errands at the top, and that errand train is just going and not stopping, and I need to get off and have a cup of coffee after lunch, no matter what. So one Saturday, my husband was with me too, and we had done all these errands, and the kids are in the back, and he's like, okay, let's go home. I said, let's go through a coffee drive-through, one of two that we had at the time on the island, right? So I said, we're going to go there. We would literally have to swing 2 minutes, maybe with traffic, out of our way. And he's like, what? And he's looking around like, you're kidding, right? We're not stopping, right? That's not the most efficient thing. Air runs, air runs, air runs. So I said, no, I'm getting a cup of coffee after lunch no matter what. My whole family had to adjust to this idea that mama gets to stop and get a coffee, that she's worthy of it, that she's worth it, that it's okay for her needs to be filled too, and even her wants. So we did, and that day was transformative for our family
Yeah.
because the me time turned into, you know what? Everyone in the family needs me time. We're a family of 5 individuals. We are family. We are together. We have our family goals, values, time together, all that, but we need our time apart to pursue our own interests. So by me setting that one goal of the coffee, my me time has expanded to way beyond that. But as a result, my husband started taking me time.
Yeah.
But we started creating space for it too. So that's why that day was really transformative, because all of a sudden we were creating the space for it. If one of our children wants to break away and play by themselves, which is kind of hard when you're that close in age to younger siblings, and let's say our older one wants to go away and just be in the quiet by herself, we make the time and space for her to do that.
Yeah.
And it was just really transformative. And it all started off with a guided journal where I was like, I'm not getting me time. It's getting problematic. I'm going to do it. Well, then the next month was, I believe, date night, because my husband and I hadn't been on dates. We went on something crazy like 8 dates that month.
Wow.
And so it was us once a day, like, why? Oh, it was awesome. It only happened that 1 month. But it was the focus for that month, and we took it seriously, and we had a blast, and we have a whole list of things we want to do for date nights now. So instead of being like, oh, what do we do? Go out and talk about the kids, which we kind of do sort of, but then we know what we need to stimulate us to have a good time and learn something new or try something new, or just sit in the back bedroom and watch a movie together. So we figured out what date night meant to us, what we wanted to do, all of that. And then it just went on from there. It was like cleaning up my diet so food was the focus for 1 month. And there is no one size fits all answer with food, right? So it was a month of journal prompts that helped me figure out what eating style works well with my body, that could also work for somebody else who's just trying to figure out what eating style works well for them too.
Mm-hmm. That is so good. And we briefly talked before we started recording about the whole me time and how important that is, and how with me, even this podcast has become me time, that I'm away from my family, away from the kids, there with Ben or with True, mother-in-law, grandma, and it's nice to just connect with someone, to have a conversation like this that's meaningful, that is kind of like a refilling my cup time, and that hopefully people that are listening can benefit as well, because it's something we just don't do. You just said exactly how I felt. I literally I drive a minivan. Okay, I got the 3 kids. We're in the van. We have our porta potty in the very back in a trash can. If you haven't figured that out yet, you need to get that in your life, because what started that for me was my parents living 3.5 hours away, and me driving my kids, just me, and not wanting to go into a convenience store bathroom with 3 boys, no less. And when I say there's a difference with girls and boys, there is a difference. And these boys have even been on the stomach of a public on their stomach in a public restroom, and it just makes me want to lose my cookies. But that's what I'm saying, is how terrifying. Like, you will start to put one of those little porta potties in a trash bag in your back seat of your trunk or whatever.
I didn't know the trash bag thing. I didn't know that. We haven't done that.
Yes.
But if you use a diaper, like a unused diaper, and open it up, you can put that in there too. I learned that trick. And then you roll it up and throw it out.
Didn't even think of it, but now it's bringing me to a whole new level. Thank you, Lori.
I know. Thank you so much for the trash can bag tip, though, too.
Exactly, inside the trash bag. And that way I can just cinch it right back up and not worry if it tips over or anything. But it was that I'm not stopping. And if I have to go to the bathroom on that 3.5 hour drive, do you think I'm stopping? No. Not.
Right.
I'm not. I'm going to flood myself if anything, but but that's the way it goes. You just don't plan time for yourself. You don't think about stuff like that. So long story short, yes, me time, yes. Guided journals, yes. I love just the thought of taking that time to let your brain wander and not think, okay, I got to get groceries. I got to do this. I got to get to work on time. I've got this meeting going down. Like, I don't plan enough. What would you call that? White space, I guess, just like blankness in your schedule to have that.
Right. And the power of I believe in the power of pen to paper, big time.
Mm-hmm.
Big, big, big time. There's scientific research that shows that connection too, that you actually, most people remember things if they're written out with pen or pencil on paper as opposed to typing them out.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's absolutely it. The other thing I learned with the guided journals is that by taking that 5 minutes every day, what's 5 minutes? It's modeling positive, healthy behavior for my kids. It's modeling taking time to write down my thoughts. And the other thing I learned, not on purpose, was that my thoughts are worthy of notation. Because I had a few days at the beginning of that guided journal journey where I was like, oh my gosh, like, does this even matter? Should I even write this down? But it teaches you that your thoughts are absolutely worthy of notation and that you're important, and what you want, think, feel, need, all of that is really important. And if you can get that out into the world on even just pen and paper, it's extremely powerful.
Yes, and acknowledging it and understanding it is the first step to being able to do something about it or overcome something, is acknowledging or realizing it exists. So
Mm-hmm.
that's so good. Has it been an hour already? Oh my gosh. I don't understand how this happens every time. You would think I'd get the picture, but I just find so many good things to talk about. Tell me, Lori Beth, if there's anything else that you've thought of that I've missed, because this has been so fun and I just don't want it to end, but it has been an hour. So was there anything that you wanted to share that I didn't touch on?
The overarching theme for all of this with my family has been aligning actions and values too, was
Mm-hmm.
the one thing I think I maybe didn't mention. And it's what I try to encourage moms to do too, but it's that slowing down, it's journaling, it's writing down, taking the time to figure out what your values are, taking the time to write down and figure out what kind of mother you want to be, what you want your days to look like,
Yeah.
what you want your days to be filled with. For me, one day it came in a homeschool planning kerfuffle, a personal little existential crisis of I'm not scheduling this right. And I thought, you know what? Scrap all the schedules, scrap all of it. What are you actually trying to do for your kids? What are you trying to do for your life? All of that. And I was like, I just want our days to be beautiful and simple as much as they can be. And even with all the busyness, even with running the multiple businesses, even with the craziness that is hosting a podcast,
Right.
there are still really beautiful moments. There are simple moments that I don't want to overlook. And because I have those and my mindset and our values, all of this, our actions start to align with it. And life just gets easier because
Yeah.
we're not fighting ourselves. We're not fighting our values. We stop comparing and we just really focus in on what we need and want and hope for our own family. And the second that you do that and really get clear on that and get everyone kind of on the same page working toward that goal, the more peace that kind of comes into your motherhood journey, the more clarity, the more you can slow down in those moments of, oh my gosh, toddlers. And oh my gosh, I yelled and I said I wasn't going to be. It's the journey, it's the path, it's what you're working toward. And you can take any moment and figure it out. And
Yeah.
you take any moment and apologize or grow or learn and all of that. And once you start to realize, hey, is this leading us down the path of our goals and our hopes and our values? Great, we're going to continue on there. And if you veer off, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Just bring yourself back to that awareness. Talk about it openly with your family, with your partner, with your kids. Like, hey, I feel like this isn't aligning with our values all the way. Let's just kind of move on. Or even if you feel like a disconnect with your kids, just saying, hey, connection is one of our family values. I'm going to propose that we put everything on pause this weekend, do a fun new adventure together, and then move forward from there. Let's get this train back on the track, because
Yeah.
we're all going to veer off all the time. Ups
Right.
and downs are normal. Veering is normal, but we just have to take the time to sit down and analyze it to a certain degree. Use your resources, use your friends. Say, hey, I'm feeling disconnect, or hey, I'm using this, hey, I'm using that. And all of a sudden, all your resources are there to support you too.
Yes. And when you have those actions and values aligned, it helps you say no so much easier, because the things that
Yes.
don't fall in line with that, we don't really have time to make time for that right now. We're focused in
Hmm.
this path right now. So it takes some of that pressure off about being a people pleaser and a yes woman and that sort of thing. So
Yeah, I'm a recovering one of those.
yes. Oh, girl. Yes, it is hard because who wants to disappoint somebody, right?
Right. Oh, that's hard. Oh boy, that's a whole other conversation. The
Yeah, that's
word
another
disappointment.
podcast
Whew.
episode.
Hmm.
We'll come back around for that one another time.
Awesome.
That's so great. I've loved having you on the podcast today. Thank you for taking all this time to talk with me.
Oh, thank you. I super appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Definitely. So I would like to wrap up every podcast episode and ask if there's any way I can pray for you. Are you and your family praying for anything this season of your life or have anything that you're really hoping for? Anything I can pray for you about?
Yeah, you know what? A bunch of my friends are in transition right now, and a bunch of them are on my heart. And I'm throwing food at them with meal trains and things like that. But I just sense that there's a big transition for a lot of people, whether that be new houses or new travel adventures and things like that. And just, I feel like a lot of people are in limbo. And so I've been really trying to focus on them.
Yes. So they need all the help they can get, all the prayers they can
Mhm.
get. Yes. Well,
Yes.
let's pray together. Is that okay?
Yes. Thank you so
All
much.
right, you're welcome. God, thank you so much for my new friend and Lori Beth. Thank you for the conversation today and just encouraging one another and hopefully encouraging some other moms on this podcast. God, I thank you for the mission that you've given Lori Beth. I thank you for her heart and her passion and her desire to see people united and know that they're not alone and that mamas can understand that in order to be their best version of themselves and be the best for their kids, that they have to make time for themselves. And I just pray that right now, the moms in her life that are going through transition and having a hard time putting themselves first, or amidst the chaos of changing homes or jobs or new shifts in their family dynamic, Lord, I just pray that you'd be with her and give her guidance and wisdom and how to speak into their lives and give them the comfort that they need and the stability and the support and the friendship and just the love of knowing they're not in it alone. And I just thank you for her willingness to just be that and to be present for them and to just offer that support in a way that they know that she's there and that everything else can be going crazy, but they can reach out to her and she'll be a listening ear or a free meal or whatever is needed. God, I just thank you for her children. I thank you for her husband and their marriage. And I pray you bless them, Lord. I just pray your favor on them this year. Lord, guide them and direct them in the paths that you would take them this year. And we just pray that it would all be for their good and your glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Yes.
Thank you. That was so lovely.
Welcome. You're welcome. Where can we find you at? Tell us your website and your social media handles and things like that.
Sure. Thank you so much for asking for that. My favorite website at the moment is my podcast one, elevatingmotherhood.com. My blog is Yayamamas, YAYAMAMAS.com. My Instagram handle is at Lori Beth Auldridge. And on Facebook, there is Elevating Motherhood and also Yaya Mamas. So there's one for each over there too.
Thank you.
Take care. Aloha.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Good News Mama. If you did, please leave me a review on iTunes. A 5-star review is best. And hit subscribe. Share with your friends on Instagram and Facebook. Please email me at lynn@goodnewsmama.com. You know I love questions. I love feedback. I want to know what you want to know. We're going to talk about what means something to you. So let's hear it. Follow me on Instagram at Good News Mamas. That's mamas with an S. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Keep your head up. Keep your heart humble. And share that good news.